First and foremost, thank you everybody for joining us here tonight, and a special thank you for SPE for hosting this event and putting this out there. This is a valuable tool. This time every year when we put this together in conjunction with SPE, leading into the application process, the Eddie Adams workshop. It's always a positive feedback on folks and participants that ultimately join us at the Eddie Adams workshop. But what we're going to talk about tonight is going to be more than just the Eddie Adams workshop. This is for any professional that is looking forward to putting together a portfolio, and why you should put your portfolio together, how you should put it together, and we're going to give you some feedback behind the scenes from some of the top photo editors in the country on submitting a portfolio for review, and the do's and don'ts and some of the tips and tricks. So we're happy to have you here tonight. Like Tony was saying, we will have questions and answers. You can put those in the Q&A, and we'll try to get to everybody's questions. And then, the chat is open, and we'll drop some links and some different things in the chat. As it pertains to how to apply to the Adams workshop, again, you can find that on our facts page and the website, or reach out to our social media. But outside of that, this is going to be more just grounded in building those portfolios, or putting together those puzzles, if you will. We have a talented team, and I'll get started with introducing everybody. We're going to try to get a nice 60, well, we're trying to keep it about an hour, a good long conversation of this whole process and how it works. And tonight, I'm joined with my co-host, the esteemed Sarah Lean, former director of photography for the National Geographic. And Sarah, I swear, anytime you open up a book these days, you'll see an acknowledgement to Sarah Lean for helping to put together their book. All my friends, everybody I look at, it's Sarah Lean's inside of there. It's amazing photo editor. So Sarah, hello. Introduce yourself to everyone and say hi, and let's get started with our panelist.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all. This is really a valuable conversation. I think we'll try to talk and amongst ourselves, as it were, for about 45 minutes, and then we'll take your questions. So we love questions. Sometimes it's the best part. So please feel free to anything that we might not cover and you're interested in, please put that in the Q&A. I'm a independent photo editor and educator, and I spent most of my career at the National Geographic, photographer, editor, and director of photography. And now I can pick and choose what I want to do. And as Benny was mentioning, I love editing and working with photographers, and especially working on photography books. So maybe Elizabeth, you want to start and introduce yourself, and we'll just do a quickie introductions and jump in.
Okay, sure. I was a photo editor also at National Geographic for over 20 years, and now work with Women Photograph, Virginia Quarterly Review, Catchlight, ICP, and Apple, as well as Eddie Adams. I'm working with photographers on books and on an exhibition for the Griffin Museum, and I just finished judging the Alexia grants.
Corinne?
Thanks. So for the last 25 years, I've been at Reuters. My current role is as the North America editor for Reuters Pictures, deciding how we cover the US and Canada, which over the last 8 years has involved hurricanes, the presidency, uh, breaking news, and assigning photographers across the region. Olivier.
Yeah.
I'm the deputy director of photography at the Washington Post, and I've been going to the Eddie Adams workshop since 2015. I just looked at my photo albums. Yeah. Heather.
Heather? Oh, did I interrupt you, Olivier?
No, I was saying I was throwing the baton to Heather.
Okay, good.
Hi, I'm a senior photo editor covering national news at the New York Times. I do a kind of similar portfolio to what Corinne is doing, and I think this is my 5th year. I didn't have time to check my camera roll. 5th or 6th. Time flies.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to start with a question for all of our panelists, and as well as Benny, you can take this one too. So why should photographers do portfolio reviews? Do you want to start, Heather?
Sure. It's just a great way to meet people, not even just editors, but also your colleagues, other photographers, just anyone in the room. I feel like it's a great opportunity to get everyone together, and it rarely happens, and it's only at those things. So, yes, you might be there to meet with an editor, but I think it's like looking at everyone in the room, and that's the most important thing is those connections that you're making.
Olivier?
Uh, yeah, I think it's like, yeah, it's the opportunity to network, the opportunity to show people who you are as a photographer, what's your vision, and what are your interests. Like it's a sort of great way to introduce yourself to the people that you want to work with and want to work for.
How do you feel about online versus in person?
Uh, Prefer in person, mostly because you get more of an idea of the person, of who they are, their personality, than like behind the screen for sure. But like when you're looking at work, you're looking at photos, you're looking at what they're doing. If it's an online, it's still like that information is still communicated.
Corinne, why should a photographer do a portfolio review?
For me, it's the start of a relationship. Like I'm looking for photographers, but you should be looking for which editors you want to work with as well. And it's a codependent relationship. I always say it's sort of the crab and the urchin on the top. We're reliant on each other. So it's really important to find who you want to work with. And it's certainly the way that I find work that we want to publish, who's in which location that I need. I get very excited when I see some of the list up here, Durham, North Carolina. There's a whole bunch of locations where I'm like, I don't really have a big network in certain locations. So, when you can come forward, whether it's online or in person, and say where you're located, it's that start of the relationship.
Elizabeth?
I mean, Bronwyn Latimer used to say that you're shopping for the editor of your dreams, the person who understands you and will give you an assignment. I think it's a great opportunity to get feedback on your work, both for a specific project, but also on how you see and how you approach ideas. Even preparing for the portfolio, I think will help focus your thinking about why you're a photographer and the kind of work you want to do. But also, I wanted to say if there are entry fees, make sure the reviewers are people you actually want to see your work.
True, because they're not all free. That's for sure. Benny, what do you say about why a photographer should do a portfolio review?
I think it's important to understand that photography is a team sport. It's not an individual. I mean, we all start out that way in an individual, but as you grow, learning to grow within the community and getting feedback from people and getting different perspectives on your work is invaluable to how you are going to become better and find out what facet of photography you actually want to move into. So even if it's not with an editor or a professional review, getting your work looked at, getting trusted feedback from different perspectives is very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all of these people on this panel are super busy people, and sending like a pitch or trying to introduce yourself through email can get lost pretty easy. So the portfolio review, I believe, whether it's online or in person, is a way, like you were saying, Corinne, to start that relationship. So I think it's really valuable. So what does a successful portfolio look like to you? Elizabeth, I'll go backwards. What do you say?
Okay. Well, my first thing that I always say is do not put any weak images in, no filler. Show your strongest work only and express your way of seeing. I would orient more to story myself, one or two bodies of work over singles. If an artist statement is required, make sure it is in sync with your images, so there's no contradiction, no disconnect. If only a project title is allowed, it's helpful to be more literal and more descriptive. And Sarah, a wise woman, once said, show the kind of work you want to be doing. And I think that's really true.
Yeah.
And unless it's a typology, I like to see variation of scales, so different focal lengths, so there's kind of a rhythm.
Nice. Corinne?
Yeah, I mean, I would say show the work that you want to get the job for as well. Don't show me what you think I want to see. You know, I'm a news editor, but that doesn't mean that that's all I want to see. If you're an art photographer, don't try to tailor your portfolio to a news portfolio. Show
Mhm.
me who you are, and it may not be me that can commission your work, but I may put you in contact with the right person. So just be who you are, show your best work, totally emphasize what Elizabeth said. Don't put any filler. You will always be judged by the worst picture in your portfolio, and try to be memorable. You know, don't try to go, I'm going to tick a box with one sport picture, one protest picture, and that they're all sort of mediocre. Show what makes you distinctive.
What do you say about that, Olivier?
I agree with Corinne. Um, it is really about like showing who you are as a photographer. Um, like this is what I want to see when I'm looking at your photos. I know that like what your visual style is, but also what interests you, what like drives you, what really like is making you move as a photographer for sure.
Would you say that it's as much about meeting the person as it is about the work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Corinne's
yeah.
nodding her head. Yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to know that like when you're going to send them on assignment, representing like in my case like the Washington Post, that they're going to be professional, that they're going to like represent the brand that the Washington Post is um, in the best of ways, and like you get the sense of that like when you're meeting someone and having a conversation over their work for sure.
Mhm. And I saw you nodding your head too, Heather, on that.
Yeah, I think, you know, we send people into very sensitive situations. So getting to know someone and seeing just how they handle a 20-minute portfolio review, how organized they are, how they talk about their stories, how they talk about the things that they've covered, it really sticks with me. And if I get an assignment that might be with someone who needs to be anonymous, I think back to someone who is really sensitive talking about an immigration story that they worked on. And that sometimes is the most important thing. Not even location, not even your style. It's just knowing that you're the right person to be in that room.
Yeah. And what do you like to see? Are you more singles or stories?
Well, I think to kind of piggyback off what everyone said is I don't want to see any filler. Your weakest images are unfortunately probably what I'm going to remember. Being like, what was that out of focus portrait that was in the middle of that portfolio?
It's art.
And yeah, unless it's intentional. Um,
Yes.
but it really kind of it kind of dilutes everything that you're working towards. So if you have 10 great singles, I'd love to see that. If you have a story you've been working on long term that feels like you have a narrative or something cohesive, I'd love to see that too. But don't show anything on your first body of work that's a work in progress or something that doesn't feel complete or something you've just thrown together. That can wait till like later in the portfolio review.
Oh, Benny, do you have any words on that?
Yeah, I mean, I love to teach people to lean more towards the story, to become a storyteller with their imagery. Of course, that can be done through singles, but finding and putting together a narrative or an essay or anything where you have put some thought into it and you're building that, that's where you want to go. Now, a lot of photographers are still early in their careers, and so it's going to be even in my world or in the military, it tends to be a lot of singles. So if you are going to put together a singles portfolio, just make sure that every image, looks different and says something different, right? You want to have that visual variety in your work that also represents what you are capable of with a camera, and then grow to becoming a storyteller. Because I think ultimately, all of us, no matter what facet of photography you come from, you want to tell stories with your pictures.
Yeah, because of coming from the National Geographic, I was always more interested in stories because we didn't really do that much with single photos. But it really depends on the reviewer. Like a newspaper is going to have maybe more singles in some cases than a magazine. But so it's often good to do a little research if you get the names of who you're going to see so that you are prepared when you sit down to see them. So somebody mentioned about the 20 minutes, which I think is like, wow, that's short. And it feels like it goes really fast. So any good tips about how to use that 20 minutes to their best advantage? Who
Uh,
wants to go? Go
don't
ahead.
speak for 20 minutes. You're there to hear the reviewer's opinion of your work. So don't end up speaking for 20 minutes where you're describing everything that you're seeing in a photo. Like we're photo editors. We kind of recognize what's happening in the photo. Sometimes we will ask questions if we need like some details about a person. Don't just like, explain every single details. You want actually to shut up as much as possible so that like the reviewer will give you their point of view, their like impressions of that work.
That is so important because it has happened.
It happens all the time.
It happens, right? So yeah, that 20 minutes. You have any tips, Corinne?
Yeah, also have contingencies. Like if you're in a room and the Wi-Fi goes out, don't be looking at things on your website. Have things available offline so that you can scroll through a folder, a photo mechanic, whatever it is. And just be mindful that you don't want to spend so much time navigating to a folder or something like that. That's not the best use of those 20 minutes. And each reviewer is going to be a little different. Like I might be weird and ask you for your outtakes of what you didn't show me on a story that I'm interested in.
Mm.
Have that as a possibility as well. Other editors might want to see, more on a certain story or more singles. Just have those options available to what the editor is asking you for as well.
Elizabeth, that 20 minutes.
Yeah.
How should they use it best?
Well, I think everything that both Corinne and Olivier said is really true. I would just make sure as you're sort of winding up to, try to get a sense of whether the person thinks that your work is a good fit for like their publication or their gallery, whatever. And then just ask about the best way to stay in touch with them and just make sure to leave some kind of card or promotional print or something with your contact information, just so they know how to reach you. And I also love, when Corinne said that earlier too, that you just make sure that you convey where you're based so they know exactly where you are. So I think that is more and more important these days.
Yeah. Heather, any good tips for that 20 minutes?
Well, I think 20 minutes can either feel really quick or very long, depending on where you are in your career. If you're early in your career, you might not have a ton of work to fill the 20 minutes. And so, like what everyone else was saying, being organized and being prepared is super important. You don't really want to get up, which I've had before, from a portfolio review 10 minutes in because you don't have anything left to talk about. You have no work left to show. And so I would be prepared in Googling who you're reviewing with, Googling the publication, thinking about things you want to work on or asking questions on how you can get that done. So if you're early in your career, it is the best to be as prepared as possible and come with questions, even if you don't necessarily have the work that you want to have to show yet.
Yeah, such good advice. Yeah, the 20 minutes. And I have had somebody sit down one time and, their computer like died. It just like they had got 3 words out of their mouth and it died. And it was tragic. They were like
Also,
devastated,
clean your computer. Make sure the computer is clean. That's huge.
You mean the screen?
All of it.
All of it.
How clean.
The keyboard, the screen, like there's the one thing I don't want to do is like put my finger on a really sticky and we're saying this because it actually has happened so many times.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
And if
so
you're
have
showing,
the tech. Go aahead, Elizabeth. Sorry.
If you're showing video, make sure you bring the kind of headphones that are like over your ear. You kind of like have your earphones in your ear. That kind of thing.
Because often portfolio reviews in person are at events. Like say when Eddie Adams has an event or Photo Fest or New York Times or something, and you're all crammed into a room, like sometimes one big room or a few bigger rooms, and it can get really noisy because everybody's talking at once. So yes, for video or something, definitely have some headphones if you want to do it. And, it would be sad if you had like an 18-minute video, because then you're not going to get much feedback. So little ones, I would suggest. Also, so what do you guys think about this? Like, do you like to be pitched ideas during a portfolio review? I mean, there could be different goals. Like somebody is like dying to get to Reuters and they want to work for Reuters, or maybe somebody just wants feedback on a project. But how do you feel about being pitched ideas for assignments or stories?
It depends if you've done the work on that story already. Just going in there and going, I would like to cover immigration for Reuters doesn't really tell me enough of what that story is. And I would prefer that in a follow-up email, to be honest. This is the opportunity for me to see your work, and rather than coming in and going, this is what I want to cover.
Yeah, we're gonna see like in a portfolio review, probably gonna see like 8 to 10 photographers and expecting us to remember everything that was said in that review and every story that would pitch. Like it's unrealistic. And so like having that actual follow-up in an email with the actual pitch like works much better.
Yeah. I feel like that 20 minutes is whatever the photographer wants it to be. I mean, from my position, because I'm not affiliated with a very specific kind of outlet. And so I feel like whatever they need, I'm happy to do it. They can bounce ideas off of me. They can show me pictures, and I'll just be honest with them. So,
yeah. Heather?
Oftentimes, if I'm looking at a body of work, I'll ask if it's been published. And if it's not, I'll say, can you please send it to me? And I've published a ton. I'm publishing something next week from someone who I've met in a review. And I was like, oh, I love this story. You should pitch it to me because I obviously like to publish it. And that's probably the most natural route things will kind of go, I would think, in a portfolio review. But at least for me, it's just seeing stuff and knowing, okay, yeah, this is the right fit for me. And if it's not, like, here are a few other people who might be interested in it too. So it's just keeping that conversation and knowing, it's actually knowing like who you got a grant from, that it's not been published, all the kind of details of it too, and what it would take to get that published.
So is that key, would you say, for all of you, that it has not been published before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they were going to pick, so if they had a work in progress or a body of work, it should have not been published before if they expect you to consider publishing it. Is that correct?
It depends for me. Like for me, like if it's been published in Europe, for example, like it's looking at who is the competitor of the publication that you are pitching to. So if you're pitching a story to the Washington Post that was published by the New York Times, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time as well. Like our readership like overlap more. But if like that work has been published in Europe, like even like an English speaking publication over there, like it's not the same readership. So if the story is strong, it's not going to matter for me.
Heather, how's it for the Times?
The same. It's the same exact, except I don't know if we would even take something that was published in a non-competitor.
Oh, okay.
So just all unpublished.
Okay. Good to know. Let's see. So the application for the Eddie Adams workshop takes about will take 12 to 20 images, and it's kind of like a little portfolio. But I'm curious to you all, if you're seeing a portfolio review, about how many images do you think is a good number? Anybody? Elizabeth, you want to jump in?
sure. I mean, I'd like to see about 15 to 25 images for one story, and then have some in reserve, and then also have a second story in case there's time. But I'm really fast. I look at things fast. Also, it really depends on whether you want me to edit with you in that session or whether you're just trying to show me something. Then it makes a big difference how much you're showing.
Corinne, about what's a good
I think
average?
it depends on where you're at with your career as well. If I could see 2 stories and some singles, that would be a really great way of seeing your full showcase. But show me the work that defines you. And, if that's 12 pitches and they're all amazing, then we will stay in touch. And, that may be the start of that relationship.
Heather, is that about right for you? What do you think?
Yeah, that's about the same. And everyone's different too. Like sometimes people bring a book and sometimes people are showing it digitally. And I just think whatever defines you the best is what I want to see.
Yeah, Olivier.
But don't bring print that I have to use glove to. It's like print where you need to use gloves. It's not the right print for a portfolio review. Like you want to show that work to as many people as possible. Like when you're over there, just bring print that you know that like if like they get like a little bit like damage by the end of it, it's completely fine. But after that, like it's really like no matter what, like digital, print, book, it's really what is the story that you want to tell about yourself.
Yeah, I think the idea of having like backup work to show, you might have this one body of work that's the one you really want to put out there. But sometimes I'll look at that and I would think, well, this is not exactly right for us, but what else you got? That would be my question. What else you got? Because I like to see a lot, actually, and then dig down into something. And having that goal, like let's say you want to pitch, or maybe you just want feedback on your project, or maybe you want some editing help. I mean, that coming in with this maybe goal for your portfolio can be helpful for how you organize your time. I was wanted to ask about, let's say they've never done a portfolio review before. What would be some really good advice for them as a first timer? Olivier?
Sorry, you were saying?
So let's say
I was typing an answer to a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll
Yeah, like repeat
the
your
first
question.
time the person, let's say they've never done a portfolio review before. They're like a nervous wreck, and they're gonna go do it. What is some good advice for people if it's their first time doing a review?
Breathe. Like pause. Tell the reviewer this is your first portfolio review, that you don't really know how this is like going, like you did, like you're not sure about like what you need to be showing. Have that conversation. I think it's really about like remembering that like you might be meeting with like a top photo editor, but you're also meeting with a human being that's going to understand those emotions and is going to help you structure the discussion that's going to issue. And so just be transparent and like not afraid of saying like, okay, like this is my first time. I'm a wreck. I don't know what I'm doing. Here are my photos. And like, we'll guide you. Like, okay, show me the last thing that you've done. Like, show me the things that you're most proud of. And like, also, what is it that you want from me? Like, ask those kind of like those questions. And so just like relax, everything's going to be fine.
Really good advice. Corinne, you have some first timer advice?
Yeah, I mean, introduce yourself. Like you would not believe the number of people who don't just say, I'm whoever and I'm based wherever you're based, because that just breaks the ice the way that you would have a normal conversation. And like Olivier said, spell out that this is your first time. Put, put it on the editor as well on what would you like to see from me? I have 12 pictures. Is that okay? Would you like to scroll through or should I scroll through for you? And that way you can sort of be guided by them as well. And just remember, like we're all people too. We started out in this industry, different decades ago, but we all started somewhere. And that it's there's been a first time for everybody. And it's only your first time once, and then you'll be better the next time, you'll be better the next time after that. So just don't worry too much about it.
Elizabeth?
I mean, I just think you should be like a sponge and just absorb everything, and just the worst mistake for me is to be really defensive, to kind of, not be taking in everything that you can. And also, I think it doesn't hurt sometimes to ask the reviewer, what kinds of stories are you most interested, or what do you have the greatest need for? Do you need to assign somebody to specialize in particular things. I mean, just to find out a little bit more about them too, so.
Heather, first time advice?
I think just being kind and, like I said, organized is probably the best thing you can do. It's totally fine and normal to be nervous. And I think just saying, this is my first time doing a portfolio review. Like, let's go through this together. And everyone's going to be nice, or hopefully everyone is. But I think that's just the greatest advice I have for all of this is just be very kind to kind of everyone in that room.
Manny, what do you have good some advice for first timers?
Oh man, we've touched on so much already. I think the biggest thing is in getting a review is like what Olivia said earlier, is just you're there, you've got that time, listen and try to get as much feedback as possible, right? That's what you're, whether it's the Eddie Adams workshop where we put you through a series of portfolio reviews upon your entrance to the workshop, you're going to have 2 nights of multiple reviews, sometimes 4 to 6 reviews in a night of these, speed dating, if you will, with some different editors. So, and then you're going to go to other conferences and other workshops that may have longer terms where you get a chance to sit down. The biggest thing that comes out of it is just try to get as much feedback as possible. Let your work speak for itself, and let those that are looking at your work, let them determine what the work says about you, and just listen and take notes, because you're going to learn a lot more about yourself.
I'd like to just say that in most portfolio reviews, everybody who is there wants to be there. I would say we want to be there. We want to meet photographers. We want to see your work. So you have a people who are already on your side. So if you're nervous about it, just understand that they're there and taking their time. And lots of portfolio reviews, nobody's getting paid. Everybody's a volunteer. So that people really want to see you, and you can take that, to heart, that and it can help give you some confidence that they want you to succeed. So I think that's really important. But somebody said something about criticism, feedback, like seeing multiple reviewers. So if you're seeing 6 different reviewers in a day, or 4 or 5, you'll probably get 4 or 5 or 6 different opinions. So what do you do? How do you deal with all that feedback? And one person loves it and the other person kind of meh. So how do you cope and deal with all the different opinions that you might get? Heather?
I mean, it's all subjective. So I do think you have to take it with a grain of salt, or else you will probably not last very long. And don't be defensive. Everyone's going to say something different. Sometimes it's really out of pocket, and sometimes it's really great advice. And I think it's kind of helpful to be open to all types of feedback, like even showing your work to people who aren't in the visual field, and figuring out how they perceive it and how it resonates with them. So just being open to being adaptable and to constantly be growing is what's going to make you a better photographer, and it's going to help you show your work. So I would take all of the advice with a smile, and then with a grain of salt, and then not defensively, or else you're not really going to get what you want out of that experience, which I assume is a conversation, a good conversation.
Elizabeth?
Well, I am totally with Heather in that you just listen to everyone and you kind of try out the different ideas in your mind, and maybe even later, in actuality. But you have to go with what resonates with you, is my feeling. If you start to hear a lot of overlap or confirmation from multiple reviewers, that might be kind of a clue. And you can consider the context. Some ideas might work for an exhibition or not a book, but vice versa. But I always remember what India Beale said in one of these earlier sessions. If somebody says something to you that seems totally off base, you look them in the eye and you say, "Thank you so much. I will think about that." So
it's true. Anyway. That's good. Also, something that might not resonate with you in that moment, it could be like a month later, and as you're going along, and you'll think, "Oh yeah, Olivier said that to me at that time, but I didn't think too much of it. But now I really understand what he meant. So it's you just have to take, there you go, and you just have to not try to react too much in the moment. Um, what do you say, Corinne, about this?
I mean, being open to feedback is really important throughout your whole career, not just the portfolio review. And that's certainly something when we're working with photographers, there will be feedback. And if you are defensive in that portfolio review, that might be a hesitation going, they're not open to feedback. And, that's not the reputation you would want. So, and just remember, we all represent different outlets. We're all different people. We're going to have different opinions. And just listen to it. It may not resonate with you, like Elizabeth said, but there may be people who you don't expect that feedback does resonate with you. And see what it looks like. If they say take out this picture, then you take it out and judge whether that makes your portfolio stronger or weaker, and that's your decision as the photographer. So just be open.
Olivier?
Yeah, I think like if you end up with reviews where like, all photo editors have said like, hey, why is that photo in there? Like, okay, start to realize that maybe there's a problem there. And it's, you have to adapt based on where that photo editor is from. What like, are they a wire agency, a newspaper that deals with like the daily sort of news, or something that's a lot more specialized? And their feedback is really going to be based on their own, like what work they like to publish, the type of stories that they're looking for. And so like understand where that feedback is coming from, and don't just dismiss it because it's something that like that hurt you in some way.
I'm thinking, Benny, maybe we move into the questions maybe a little bit early because it looks like we have quite a few.
There's a lot, Sarah, and I was going to say let's do that, and then also let me give a little speed round answers to a couple of things that are specific to the
Okay.
EAW and some things that we may have gone over so far. Age limit to EAW, no. The fact section you can find out where you fall in on, but we've had folks of all ages on the farm. The workshop itself is it primarily photojournalist based. It is heavy photojournalism, but all photographers, all walks of life have walked up that to that barn, and all are well represented inside there. We have people that show work from the grandest of photo illustrations and down to purely news and documentation. So everything is represented inside the barn. So everybody should feel free to submit a portfolio. The preference on bringing on how your portfolio should be, whether it's a book or it's print or it's digital. I think we've touched on that. But whatever best represents your work, I think would be ultimately the answer. I've seen some portfolios that could only be printed the way that they were printed that just looked beautiful sitting on the table in front of editors. And then sometimes, going through over off the laptop, iPad, or anything else is best. But like it was said, plan for contingency and have a backup plan. So make sure that they're saved somewhere else. Um, there was a few other things that were inside of here. But I really liked this question. I'm not going to start in order, but I thought there was a question that just came up, and boy, you guys are really pumping the questions through. So where was it here? Was it okay? From Haley Cook, when you're looking at a talented photographer's portfolio, what is the most common missing piece that prevents a good portfolio from becoming a hireable one?
Mm,
And I think we should just take one or two of our panelists to answer that, and then we'll move on to the next question to try to get through a few.
okay.
So I'm going to start with Heather on that one there.
Um, I think if I saw a good portfolio and I didn't hire them, it would probably be because they were not kind. I know I keep going back to that, but it's a huge personality thing. It's if you're representing yourself and your portfolio is good, generally you will probably get a call, or maybe it's just not a fit. I mostly assign in the US. So if I meet someone from London or someone based in Paris, I might not be hiring them, but I'll be passing them along to our international photo editors or other folks that I know at different publications, like Olivier, who do assign farm wide. So yeah, I think if you have a good portfolio, you should just focus on talking about your work.
Mhm.
Is there anybody else that wants to tackle that? What takes a good portfolio to a hireable one?
Think if it's different to what I can get from people I'm already working with, whether it's location, whether it's style, whether it's types of stories. If you're in the same location where I already have a lot of freelancers and you're producing the same amount, the same types of work, but maybe not at the level that they are, then that would be difficult for me to hire you. But this is why it's important to show something that is uniquely you, that you bring to the table that's different to other people working in your location.
Benny, can I follow up on that one?
Yes.
Yeah, that question, because there was another question that was from Amna
I had that one
Kalafala.
tagged. Yep,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
It said, and it sort of follows up on what you're just saying. It says, beside the strength of your work, what might benefit you in getting work? Education, languages, travel experience. So it's kind of like, are you looking a lot for local photographers to do some assignments? So you had said earlier, Corinne, about, oh, Durham, North Carolina. So you're looking more for local versus sending people from other places to that.
Yeah,
And
correct.
then is it is it a benefit if the person lives there or speaks the language or has worked there before? And
Yeah.
anybody can answer that one.
Right. Can we retire the sentence on portfolios on websites and will accept assignment worldwide? We see it too often. Yeah, I think like it's knowing where you are based and like the kind of like location that you're close to is going to be really helpful for photo editors, like being like this. It is a market where we are like working with a lot of local photographers that are close to the action that we're covering. Like the news is developing so quickly now that it's just, yeah.
Heather, is that the same for you?
Yeah, knowing what languages people speak is actually really, really helpful. I feel like I kind of have it stored in my brain what every photographer speaks. Because someone's always looking for like a Russian speaker or Mandarin or something, and you're like, I actually have someone like 3 hours away, which in this scenario is perfect. Knowing where they're from, and knowing where they're based, I think both of those things are really important. Um, and knowing what they've covered before and like what type of training they have. And so all those things are super important.
Like they can do drones, they can do video,
All of that. Yeah.
all of those different sort of skills. What else?
Drone with a proper license, an FAA license. So I don't really care if you own a drone. If you're not licensed to fly it in the US, it's a bit irrelevant for me to know.
I'd so love to know if photographers have particular obsessions, like if they love like cooking or fashion or sports or finance, or something, just so you get a sense that they really understand kind of all the parameters and who the experts are, what the pitfalls are, that kind of thing. So I also feel like it helps me so much when I see photographers after, right after a portfolio review, if their website and their Instagram are really kind of tuned and ready and they're in good shape, I feel like I can trust that person more. So.
Yeah,
Benny, you got it.
don't underestimate the fact that we will be looking at your Instagram. It's likely the first thing we're going to be looking so that we get the link to your website from your Instagram.
Yes.
And if we see a feed of Instagram that is like disorganized or too centered around your personal life, which is completely fine, but like don't share that link to a photo editor.
Or really old, if the last post was like 5 months ago, it makes me think,
yes,
whoa.
Exactly. And this is the thing, like your Instagram profile as a photographer has become your calling card, has become like the first step to like your website, the first step to being hired in a lot of cases.
So Sarah, I'll say that I'm going to answer a question here, but then also for those of you that are putting in the Q&A, if I click on answer live, it's probably because we've already discussed it. If there's anything you need to know more specific, then definitely type something back in. And then if anything is just too specific, just reach out and contact to our panelists here directly for some of those things. I understood. I saw that there was a comment by a photographer that was talking about sending a staffer to Oahu instead of hiring locally in Oahu, given the floods and everything else. And we can touch on that in just a minute. We'll ask about that. But I saw here Zachary just posted, is there any different approach in submitting a portfolio for a workshop such as EAW and a sit-down portfolio review in person? And I would say no, Zach. I think what we've talked about here is like representing your work in both of those things, ultimately getting work as a photographer going forward. And EAW is a caveat to that. That's a workshop that helps to build your network, to get you these portfolio reviews, to sit you down in front of these editors. And the beauty about the Eddie Adams workshop is that it provides opportunities to some of these publications after the workshop, right? So that are some of the things that are awarded after the workshop. So it's a beautiful transition when you're talking about an EAW. But for any portfolio review, like we've said, and it's been said here tonight, is just the work that represents you and the work that you want to do, what's your passion. And then we'll go into, does anybody want to touch on that? Like sending a staffer versus hiring locally?
I can talk about that. I think that was addressed to me. I When breaking news happens, there are a lot of hands in the coverage. The Times is set up very differently than probably some places, but a lot of cooks in the kitchens when things start happening. Our staffer that we sent does have connections in Oahu and has been reporting stories there, but also it's just having the people who are on my radar. I'm not familiar with your work. And also during a disaster, it's very, very important that safety is the number one thing. We cannot have people getting hurt. We cannot have people being irresponsible, and just knowing. And that's what a lot of people have on their website too. Corinne, Reuters offers a very lovely safety course. So just knowing that you have the right PPE, the right training, and going into these situations are extremely serious, and people can get hurt and lives lost super quickly.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, when it's a disaster, when it's a conflict, a war, or anything like that, we're going to work with people that we've already worked with because we know how they handle those kind of situations. Like, we will build up other photographers like slowly, but we're not just going to throw someone that we've never worked with before in a disaster zone. That's for sure.
I was gonna shift to somebody was I think it's Andrew Palmer was asking about works in progress. Like when I'm reviewing portfolios, I like to see works in progress because as an editor, I feel like, maybe I can brainstorm with you and help you figure out what's missing in this story. How do you all feel about looking at works in progress? Anybody?
Great. That may be something that we can end up publishing, and that may be something that we can build on. When we've got room to move on a story, that's great. We could shape it into something that writers might need, or it may be something that I could say, oh, that would be a great fit for this other publication. I think we all send photographers to each other a lot of the time as well, and to try to assess where might be the best publication for that particular work.
Anybody? Elizabeth, you like works in progress?
I do. I really like seeing it for just the reasons that you all have been talking about. I've been working a lot recently with Virginia Quarterly Review, which is a very small circulation literary quarterly, but they do publish in each issue two different photo portfolios, usually 16 to 24 pages. So if anybody wants to send anybody to me to forward, but it's great to sort of just get a sense ahead of time of what people are doing so that you can just see, if it's something that you can help them with, or if you can start to send them to other publications, as you said, Corinne. So.
I'm going to touch on a few things real quick while we still got time and try to maximize our time. Please put your questions in the Q&A. I'm trying to read both between the Q&A and the webinar chat on some certain things, but it's going to be much easier for us in the Q&A. And there's a couple of good questions inside of here that I'd like to touch on too, and couple of things that I think we've touched on about, Stephen, you asked about, tailoring a different portfolio per the editor that you're going to see. Again, I think we talked about that on just, having a body of work that represents you, and then bringing that body of the work to the editors that are going to that's communicate with in a sense. If you're trying to get a job somewhere and you're bringing it a sports package to National Geographic, you're going to get some good feedback, but bring the portfolio to the people or the editors that you want to see that you're trying to get work with. Other people have asked, how do you contact a photo editor? How do you stand out, and how do you contact a photo editor to start that relationship? How do you guys prefer to be contacted?
By email, ideally after a portfolio review meet. This is really important to follow up with the editors afterwards. We see a lot of photographers' work, so if you can mention in that follow-up email what picture we may have talked about that I really liked, or some recollection of the body of work that you presented, it's a really quick reminder, and I can go, oh, great, that's that photographer that I like, that I met in at this particular review. So follow up with editors after the reviews is super important.
I also think it's smart, when you're on Instagram or something and you see another photographer who's doing a shout out to an editor who worked on a story with them, and you sort of make a note, oh, that editor works on the kind of stories that I like to work on, and then you can try to get in touch with them at some point.
Not by text.
Not by text.
Though I've given that advice before, and I have heard that some people do that with decent response rates. But maybe if it's our first time ever being in touch, I don't know how you would. Just please do not contact me via my cell phone, call, or text. Email's awesome.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about like DMs on like social media, like Instagram or something?
I kind of hate it. If it's like a, hey, but then sometimes I'm like, oh, I totally missed their email. So I don't know. I'm like a walking contradiction, I suppose, with that. But maybe you guys have better thoughts. It depends on the day.
If you're sending an elaborate speech pitch on Instagram, like it's not the right platform. If you're trying to introduce yourself and just saying hi, I'm a photographer there, that's fine. Maybe I'll look at your profile and follow you. It's know what the platform is made for and what the kind of interactions are on that platform. Are you having your most elaborate conversation on a DM on Instagram? No, but a quick chat, yeah. I say one thing, react to photo editor stories, for example, or their photos. I think that's even more effective than just pitching yourself. Stroke their egos. It's important.
Chocolate, bring chocolate.
This is one thing I mentioned, this the best portfolio review I've ever had was it's about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I have a long line of photographer who wants to meet with me, and I have a sandwich on my table and I'm starving, but it's back-to-back photographers. And this one Belgian photographer sat down, gave me his card, said, I'm just going to sit here. You can have your sandwich. You can just look at my work on my website later. We can talk later, but I've been seeing that you want to eat and no one's allowing you to. And I still work with that photographer. It's been 15 years. I still work with that photographer.
That's fantastic. Yes.
We also Sarah, let me jump on that real quick too. Folks, this is talking about egos. Now, these guys don't have those egos. But I will tell you, we're talking about the creme de la creme of photo editors in the country, in talking about reaching out to them. Early on, I was given the great advice: start locally. Start with your local paper. Start with your local photo editors that may have more time than reaching out to an international photo editor or the editor or the DOP of National Geographic, right? Start in your own backyard. Start locally with some photo editors at your community-based papers or your larger papers around. Invite people out to coffee, invite them out to lunch, and given the time, and start working those relationships from there. And then apply to the Eddie Adams workshop, and then you'll get a chance to sit down with all of these panelists because they're all there. And in fact, all of our panelists tonight have been photo editors at the Eddie Adams workshop, right? So you're more than likely to get a chance to get some of those photo editors in your local area and everything else, and then branch out from there, right? As you go forward and stand out. And you'd be surprised by the network because some of these photo editors at your community are friends with these photo editors at the New York Times, and they say, hey, I've got somebody in our backyard that we've been using. This person might be great for an assignment here. So it is a network. So just inject yourself into that network and then let it build from there. And you were saying, Sarah, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Just I'm gonna get last words from everybody because we're at
Yes.
time. I would just say in terms of what last words for me would be a problem solver, not a problem maker. These are very busy people and they can pick anyone they want to work with, and somebody who's going to solve their problems for them, for the photo editors, for the publication, is super valuable. And also create community for yourself. So the idea of portfolio reviewing and getting feedback is happening for you all the time. Heather, last words?
I'm just a broken record, but I would say to be nice, be organized, and be intentional, because the way you present yourself there is the way you're going to be remembered. It's a first impression, and sometimes you don't really get a second.
Elizabeth?
I'd say maybe two quick things. One is that if you want to be part of the community, try to go to a lot of live events and meet people in person. Like if you see photographers or editors who are actually speaking or giving some kind of presentation, I think that's a great way to just learn more about them, like who they are as people, but also just to understand sort of what they're obsessed with also. But also, if you're not selected for an opportunity, you can always apply again if you're still eligible, because often the judges change from year to year and your project might be stronger with time. I just saw this with Alexia, and I saw it a lot also with Eugene Smith. Some of the grantees were people who were repeat applicants. And so, just don't give up. And just remember that everyone, including you, is always a work in progress at any given moment.
Corinne?
Yeah, I would say remember this is quite a small community. We all know each other. So treating people with respect will go a long way. And that's a reputation that then, we spread between editors as well. And we share contacts, and just be open to that feedback. Remember, it's a small community, and that your journey can be long as you are listening and open and respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Olivier,
Yeah,
you can have the last word.
Corinne stole my word there. Like, I think, like all the people that you see on the screen, we're friends. We talk to each other. If you're mean to one, we're gonna know. If you're not professional in the field, we're gonna know. But like one thing I'd say on top of that is do your research about us. Know who we are, what we like to publish. Show that you are, a journalist, because in photojournalist is this like journalist is important. And we want to work with professional people who know how to do a quick search about someone, who knows about their publication, and not just show up at the portfolio and like, oh, so who are you and what do you do? And that has happened too many times.
Well, folks,
There's photos that need to be edited, so we need to let these editors get back to business on the real. Thank you so much to SPE for putting this together.
yes.
Thank you to all our panelists. I can't wait to see you guys up at the farm, and folks, thank you so much for your time.